Before we start our debate today, please set your handphone or any devices that may disturb our debate today to the silent mode. Especially for audiences, please do not leave or enter the room during the speech. Welcome to the final round of English Debating Championship with the motion, this House believes that smoking should be banned in public places. On my left side, acting as affirmative team for this debate is the team from Class A, with Mr. Indra as the first speaker, and Mr. Azam as the second speaker, and Ms. Nadia as the third speaker. And the reply speech will be delivered by Mr. Azam. Then on my right side, acting as the negative team from Class B, with Ms. Mona as the first speaker, and Ms. Alfi as the second speaker, and Ms. Emut as the third speaker. And the reply speech will be delivered by Ms. Alfi. There are three adjudicators who will adjudicate this competition. The first one is Mr. Fikri, and the second one is Ms. Nahla, and the third one is Mr. Asad. Then I would like to tell the regulation of this debating competition. In this debate, for the substantive speech, the timekeeper will knock at 1 minute to show that the point of information can be delivered. And then the timekeeper will knock once at 6 minutes to show that the time for POI is over. The timekeeper will knock twice at 8 minutes. Then the timekeeper will knock continuously to show that the time is over and any further explanation will be penalized. And then for the reply speech, the timekeeper will knock once at 1 minute, and the timekeeper will knock twice at 4 minutes, and finally the timekeeper will knock continuously to show that time is over. And then now we come into our debate today, and to open the case from the affirmative team, here is the first speaker of the affirmative team. Mr. Indra, the time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is a country that widely accepted smoking tobacco as a common sense that is normal and people are used to it and can not disrupt by it inclusive. And on 2019, the data from the Southeast Asia Tobacco Control Alliance, or SIATCA, there are 65.90 million smokers here in Indonesia. So, therefore, people are not realizing the health effect, the negative health effect that caused by the smoking itself. So, before I explain further about my point, I will define the motion of our debate today. So, this House believes that smoking should be banned in public places. So, the key word that should I define on this motion is that public places. So, in terms of public places, there are public places in general are places that are widely open to public and can be accessed by everyone. So, for example, public places is a market, a park, amusement park, and other places that are open access by people in general. So, moving on, why smoking should be banned in public places? So, referring to our status quo right now, that we are facing the pandemic of COVID-19. So, therefore, this pandemic of COVID-19 is attacking our respiratory system. So, by smoking, and also people that not smoking itself, or we might call passive smoker, they are actually affected by the smoke itself. So the smoker affected by the smoke, by the tobacco, by inhaling the smoke that comes from the cigarettes, and Those smokes are contain such as chemical components such as tar, nicotine, that according to research that cover the respiratory system and could block the respiratory system itself. So they will susceptible to a disease such as COVID-19 and other respiratory system disease. And also, those chemicals that inhaled and exhaled by the smoker are inhaled by the non-smoker that stand close to the smoker. This non-smoker, or we should call passive smoker, are inhaling chemical component from the smokes, and they could be affected even though they are not smoking. And the result of it could be much worse than the smoker itself, because the smokers inhaling the smoke that are filtered by the smoke white filter in the smoke, but these passive smoker doesn't have any protection from the chemical component itself. So moving on to my point of argument. So first of all, why we should ban smoking in public area. So as I already told you before about the bad health impact from the smoking itself, smoker, they were not only making bad health effect for himself but also to other people. And because today we are facing the era of pandemic of COVID-19, which is attacking our respiratory systems, we should be preventing any ways of spread or situation that could worsen the respiratory system and also the immune system, such as by smoking itself. The second point is we should be aware that on this era of COVID-19, health isn't the only thing that attacked by the pandemic itself, but also like other components such as economical factor, and maybe that could be extended by my next speaker, by my second speaker. And therefore, there are real chain reaction of effect that could be caused if we letting people smoking in the public places, because the chain reaction are worse, and this might be one of the way to make this pandemic worse. So therefore, I'm proud to propose that we are banning smoking in public places. Thank you.
The first speaker of the affirmative team spent 7 minutes 9 seconds. Then to start the case from the negative team, here is the first speaker of the negative team. Miss Mona, the time is yours.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we present our argument, the negative team will conduct the definition presented by the first speaker of the government team. And we as the negative team, we are not going to debate whether the smoking is good or bad, because it seems that both of the teams are agree to that. And also, we as the negative team, we are agree with the concept that banning smoking in a public place means that people are not allowed to smoke in a public area, such as school, public transportation, market, and etc. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please let me tell you about my rebuttal. The first speaker of the government team always believed that there is prohibition in a public place such as parks, market, public roads, and etc. But the question from the negative team is how the government will implement that, and do they will put in each corner of the parks or in the public places with the security of the police, and how much personnel are needed to uphold this regulation, and who can forbid or arrest them if they are try to smoke, and is there any fine if they still do so? This is the important things that the government team should answer. Ladies and gentlemen, etc. But the most important question from the negative team is how the government will implement that, ladies and gentlemen. Do they will put in each corner of parks, market, or public places with security or with the police, ladies and gentlemen? And who can forbid them if they are trying to smoke? Is there any fine if they still do so? This is the most important question by the negative team, should be answered by the government team. And then now, please let me tell you about my argument. In this debate, we as the negative team will absolutely disagree with this motion, and we have several reasons why we are disagreeing with this motion. The first is smoking bans don't make people healthier, and then the second, smoking ban cannot be implemented in our country, Indonesia, and then the third, status quo is enough to solve all problems that government worried, and then the last argument is secondhand smoke is not as harmful as the government team thought. In the very first place, basic case of this motion is why people is still like to smoke in a public area, and then people like to smoke in somewhere else, like in a public space, like in a public road, smart park, and etc. It's because it's property right. Everyone has their own right. Everyone has their own freedom choice to they smoke or not. And then basically, why this motion exists is just because the government team believe that the right of smokers are bring harm effect to others. And then the government team always believe that secondhand smoke always bring harmful to the passive smoker. But we as the negative team, we always believe that the government team exaggerating their argument, because actually secondhand smoke is not as harmful as the government team thought. In 2013, based on the journal of the National Cancer Institute, which the below mentioned stat article calls Heart of Tobacco publication, published a study that which found no significant relationship between the passive smoker and the cancer or the effect of the smoke itself. And then the second, that a large prospective college study of more than 76,000 women confirmed a strong association between cigarette and smoke, the lung cancer, but found no link between the passive smoker, and also there is no significant relationship between the passive smoker and the effect of the smoker itself, especially in cancer. And then the second layer argument is smoking bans don't make people healthier. An eventually informative article by Jacob finally starts through the questionable proof behind the second-hand smoke myth that in the very first place, the bans had been implemented in a foreign country is because of the studies believe that there to be a correlation between the second-hand smoke and heart disease. But in fact, ladies and gentlemen, in 2006, published a heart journal revealed on only 1% drop in heart disease, a much more smaller drop than 60% that government had promised or that from the government target. And then after sweeping ban on the smoke insect in England, a 2010 study found heart attack reduction is only 2%. So that number is so small that it might not be related to the ban at all. In 2008, study in New Zealand found no correlation crossover. The Journal of Police, Knowledge and Management published a study in 2010 that also found no significant impact in any age of group. Similar with the US studies appeared in 2012 and 2014. So ladies and gentlemen, from this evidence, we as the negative team, we are strongly believe that second-hand smoke or smoking bans don't make people healthier.
The first speaker of negative team spent 8 minutes 3 seconds. And now to continue our debate today, I would like to call the second speaker of the affirmative team, Mr. Azam. The time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to our case, I would like to give some rebuttals from the opposition side of the house. So I do believe that smoking ban not increase people healthier because, and it is true, but there are some people who look at us like children or women or stuff like that, and could be passive smokers, and not like that. And based on Global Youth Tobacco Survey in 2019, it shows that 19.2% of the students have been exposed to tobacco, and riskily the children could imitate our activity like smoking or stuff like that. And based on this journal is GYTS, they are smoking cigarettes and their age about 13 until 15 years old. And most of them can buy freely the smoke in the store or in the market. And smoking in the public areas could, and without where we must could get the punishment from the government side of from the government. For it's like the punishment is about 100 until 200 200,000 rupiah, and it's very active between people in general and for PNS. And for people in general is 100,000, and for PNS and the government team is 200 or could be more than 200,000 rupiah. And also, moving on to my argument that people are smoking just because can relieve their tension or relax or stuff like that. But it is not true that because you can relieve your tension in other activities such as yoga or worship to your God. And economically, in 2018, the state money eroded in the form of health service through BPJS for those who have smoke habits, and it was huge until 160 billion per year for those who smoke for their habits. And if we look at the taxes that government get from the smoke company, we just get 1,050.81 billion rupiah in 2017, and it shows the big gap between the budget for the BPJS for those who inhale toxic smoke and the budget that government get from the smoke company. And then according to halodoc.com, that the first speaker of the opposition side of the house said that it is not very risky to be passive smokers, to be the passive smokers and get the lung cancer or etc. But because according to halodoc.com, people who inhale or being passive smokers can get lung cancer in about 25%, and it was a bit huge because according to the according to Kompas.com, the death cases in passive smokers is the death cases for the smokers is 7 million people in Indonesia especially, but the passive smoker itself is 890,000 in 2010, and it was a huge number that that Indonesian people are the passive smokers, ladies and gentlemen. And if this trend is not stopped, then it will be many people may inflict the smoke toxic disease whether they want it or not, and the cost of the government will be much huge for the health service itself and the BPJS itself. And also it can impact the health insurance itself and economically productivity. So many people that resources of human itself could decrease, and the nation should have that people, but because of the smoke, so many people are dying because of it. And academically, productivity will lose, and billions of rupiah income can lose, and so many people spend their whole life with chronic disease. Then, if you look at some countries that ban smoking in public places, such as USA and England, they impose regulation in their big cities like New York and that prohibits its citizens to smoke in public streets. And also in Indonesia itself, there is a rule for the people that inhale smoke in public areas, and you could get the punishment. You could get punishment, but it's not in general. It just is in Jakarta in Perda number 2 tahun 2005 about the air regulation and the public place. If someone smoke in public places, you will get the sanction punishment in the jail for 6 months or charged in 50 millions, ladies and gentlemen. So because of that, we do believe that we propose this motion.
The second speaker of the affirmative team spent 7 minutes 30 seconds. And now we continue to the second speaker of the negative team. Miss Alfie, the time is yours.
Thank you so much for the chance that given to me. Before I deliver my argument, I will give some rebuttals to the other side. The first thing that the other side, the second speaker of the affirmative team keep talking that the government side urges prohibition of the smoking in public places because it can't stop teenagers smoking habit, right? They keep talking that the student starts to smoke when they was 15 years old, ladies and gentlemen. But by implementing the idea to ban smoke in public places, we contend that it will not immediately stop the teenagers' rights. Based on the data from the World Health Organization, cites that the 2/3 of students see commercial ads from internet or social media. So it will be better first to stop the commercial before the smoking habit, or to ban in the public places, ladies and gentlemen. And we do believe that our status quo is already enough. The government is exaggerating, ladies and gentlemen. In the end of the day, we have a lot of smoking areas, so it will not affect the other people, ladies and gentlemen. So in the end of the day, we in the status quo is already enough, ladies and gentlemen. And the other side keep talking about the passive smoker will affect and so on and so forth. But in the fact, in 2006, published heart signal revealed only 11% drop in heart disease, a much smaller drop than 60% that government has promised or target, ladies and gentlemen. So we can see there is no significant, ladies and gentlemen, for the passive smoker and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, why we can't apply this kind of thing to ban the smokers to smoke in public places, ladies and gentlemen? Remembering smoking in Indonesia as a common thing to do, as there are more than 50 million smokers in Indonesia. According to the data, Indonesia is a country with the largest number of smokers in ASEAN, ladies and gentlemen, and with total 57 million smokers in Indonesia, and it is a huge number, ladies and gentlemen. And remembering that Indonesia has smoke is legal, smoke is the common thing, and smoking is one of the habit of the culture in Indonesia right now, that it will be hard if we applied this kind of thing, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to my argument. The ban smoking will decrease tax income and will erase trillions of rupiahs income, ladies and gentlemen. Remembering we are in the COVID era, in the pandemic era, we will have thing that the economy getting worse and so on and so forth. So if we want to apply this kind of thing, it will affect the economical side, ladies and gentlemen. Remembering that cigarette is controlled product by government by imposing tax in every cigarette pack, and it is estimated that in every year cigarette tax give to the government more than 130 trillion rupiah only from the tax cigarettes. Not to mention the earning from the upstream tobacco industry such as tobacco farmer, ladies and gentlemen. The money can be used for the useful thing like the building, to build the infrastructure and so on and so forth. The money circulation in all tobacco industry is really gigantic. Thousands of trillions of rupiah, many lives at stake in this industry, farmers, thousands of workers, and retail sellers are impacted with the ban of smoking in the public places, ladies and gentlemen. Government should consider this first, the impact to the worker, retail seller, or tobacco farmer. They will soon out of business, right? The government can just neglect them, what they will do for a living, and so on so far. If the provision on the wider range, it will be bad for business. Remembering we are in the bad situation in this pandemic era, ladies and gentlemen. We do believe that you can get deadly disease not only from smoking, right? You can get heart attack for many reasons in the same ways. And regarding the BPJS huge budget for smoker, it's not true, ladies and gentlemen. It's not relevant in the end of the day, because in the end of the day, every citizen is obligated to pay their health insurance. So before I close this my speech, here's the thing that why this government exaggerating the idea of the smokers in public places will bring harm to the passive smoker or to the student to try can be effective by this habit, ladies and gentlemen. Remembering that we have a lot of things that we take in this industry, we believe that it will helpful for the company for the country, because it's spend a lot of money to build the infrastructure, and it is very helpful for the company. Remember, Indonesia is one of the highest number of the tobacco industry, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we proud to propose.
The second speaker of the negative team spent 5 minutes 22 seconds. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we continue to the third speaker of the affirmative team. Ms. Nadia, the time is yours.
Madam and Mr. Speakers, remember that Indonesia has reached over 100,000 cases right now, and we are currently struggling in this global pandemic, right? We think that the opposition side of the House failed to understand why we propose this motion. In the very first of this debate, we already stated to you what is the purpose of this motion. We want to do a mitigation by reducing the possible another victim death coming from the COVID-19. Therefore, we want to ban smoking in public places. Here, before I deliver the clashes in this debate, I will have several rebuttals towards the deputy leader of opposition. First, she is talking about Indonesia is the largest smokers and smoking industry in Southeast Asia. Second, she said that implementing this banning policy will harm Indonesian economy. And third, she questions whether BPJS is relevant or not to be brought in this case. So here is my answer. First, the first rebuttal is that they say that Indonesia has a really big industry of cigarettes. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we are acknowledging the fact that cigarettes contributes to Indonesia's tax and so on and so far. But the thing here is that we want to ban this only on this pandemic era, right? So therefore, this is not necessarily the case, because we believe that we can still continue the industry. We don't ban this the selling of smoke and so on and so forth. So the industry itself is not getting harmed, right? Second rebuttal is that they question whether implementing this will impact Indonesian economy or not. Ladies and gentlemen, notice that every country in the world is actually having economically struggling because of this pandemic, right? And therefore, Indonesia economy, but even without doing this policy, already getting affected economically, right? So therefore, what they are trying to argue to you is not necessarily relevant, because we are actually struggling already about the economic conditions. The third is they said that the BPJS is quite irrelevant to be brought in these cases. Ladies and gentlemen, remember that Indonesian deficit budget is already increasing so much because of the pandemic, right? My second speaker has clearly told you that the number of cases by the BPJS is really taking our budget. Notice that we already have so much budget for this pandemic and so on and so forth, but then we also have to pay for the health of these smokers, and this also impacts the Indonesian economy. And this is their own claim, ladies and gentlemen, means that by implementing this banning policy, we actually help the Indonesian economy for not having excessive BPJS budget for the smokers, right? And here, the standing arguments in the other side of the house is first, whether smoking ban can make people healthier. Second, smoking ban cannot be implemented in Indonesia. And the third clashes is whether the government is exaggerating this issue or not. If we can prove you otherwise, it means that we can win this debate. Right? So first thing first, the first thing we know, the first thing that they claim is smoking ban will not make people healthier. Ladies and gentlemen, we think that their arguments are completely irrelevant to be brought in this cases, right? We know for sure in the common sense that smoking will have no impact with healthy and so on and so forth. So this is not necessarily the case. They fail to understand whether this actually impact the increase of the cases and stuff, and they only thought about the unnecessary matter. Second is they try to question whether this policy can be implemented in Indonesia, whether it is possible or not. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 has changed many common conventional ways of living, right? We are living in a new normal, so it is totally possible for us to do anything that has never been done before, right? Because we do conference meeting, we do online classes, and so on and so forth. So we can also do the policy. The proof is that there are already many countries in the world that has implemented this banning policy only during the pandemic, and this is what we propose as well. There are 15 countries that in the world, in the Eastern Mediterranean world, that implementing this policy because they want to mitigate the potential risk of death in their country, and this is what we want to implement as well, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that this is actually can be implemented in Indonesia because there are many countries and so on and so forth. So we believe that here this is totally relevant to be brought in this case, right? And this is for the greater good for the Indonesia itself, right? And this is what we are wanting for the Indonesia, right? And the third clash is that they say that the government is exaggerating the problem, right, ladies and gentlemen? They try to break down our arguments by giving proof that there are no research that has significantly impacted the relationship between smoking and cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, please note that we are debating about the effect of smoking and the coronavirus, because that's the goal of this debate, right? So they brought a very irrelevant cases to this. We will give you the proof that according to Chinese medical journal, smoking could increase the risk of pneumonia when in contact with COVID. And there's another research done by the Journal of Medical Virology that heavy smokers are twice as more likely to experience death and will have severe outcome of the COVID-19. Here we can clearly see that the effects that there is a relation between smoking and the harm of having a severe COVID cases, right? Because like my PM has clearly told you that we are arguing that the components, for example, the tar and the nicotine, are the one who are hampering our respiratory system, and we know that COVID is actually attacking our respiratory system, right? And this is totally relevant to be brought in these cases, that we believe that smoking actually necessarily harm both the smokers and the non-smokers, and we are proud to propose that we want to ban smoking in public places because this is for the greater Indonesia. Thank you.
The third speaker of the negative team spent 7 minutes 24 seconds. And now this is the third speaker of the negative team, Miss Emun. The time is yours.
The previous speaker said that smoking can increase the pneumonia disease for the smoker in this COVID-19 area, right? But here, the thing that we should remember, that smoker, if you want to decrease the case of pneumonia smoker in COVID-19, just stop that smoker already. Just try to stop the smoker, not the public place, not to prevent them to go to public space. Because of what? Because the smoker at home or at the public place, they are still smoker. They are still smoking those cigarettes. They are still hampering by those cigarettes. So we believe that this is nothing to do with this public area thing. So this public area thing is about the smoker, but they are not relevant because of they just throw the smoker and high possibility of the smoker hampered by this COVID-19. There's nothing to do with the second smoker. There's nothing to do with public area because of this. Once again, this smoker in public area or not in public area, at home or in everywhere they stay, it is really hampering their own body, not the other's body. Because of what? This is my first speaker has told you about this, that the second-hand smoker is not really affected by those smoke that produced by those smoker that smoking cigarette in the public place. And Mona has told you that the data about the insignificantly thing to the second-hand smoker, to the disease of the second-hand smoker, that's not really effect for the second-hand smoker. So in this debate, there's two kind of people by the smoker. First is the passive smoker, and the second is the active smoker. The other house, the government house, only talk about active smoker, and they say about this active smoker can be harmed by COVID-19 because of contact of pneumonia and so on and so forth. But they fail to show us how this kind of pneumonia thing, how this kind of smoker and pneumonia regulation can support to stop people to go into public area. This is not really relevant for this case because in COVID-19 we are stopped in going public area. Not only smoker, all of people stop to going public area. They stay in their house as they stay in their house, and the smoker also stay in their house. Meanwhile, here is what the second-hand smoker is really hampering by those smoker because of those second-hand smoker is really get those smokes from cigarette like 24 hours a day, like really intensive to get that smoke to breathe the air that contains smoke from cigarette. This is really harm for the second-hand smoker. But here in public place in COVID-19, we don't have those kind of 24 hours. We don't have those kind of intensive smoking in the public area, ladies and gentlemen. So the second hand will not hamper, and the smoking in public area is not relevant to broad in this case. Here is the clashes from this debate. The first is the possibility victim for COVID-19, and the second is the right of smoker, and the third is public place smoking and the disease of smoker. The first is public victim that I already explained that the smoking only the smoker can be high possibility for this COVID-19 because of they are smoker. Nothing to do with public place, nothing to do with second-hand smoker. We don't have to stop them going to public place because of what? If they are stay in home in 24 hours intensively, they are harm their own children, they are harm their own people in home. It is really the thing that you should stop because of this is really the thing you create the intensive second-hand smoker that can really accept the COVID-19 viruses. Okay. The second is the right of the smoker. The right of the smoker is we have clearly told you that status quo is really enough. The smoker of Indonesia have places for like private place for the smoker and private and the other for the non-smoker, and we have this enough. For the other side of the house, they provide you unclear mechanism of like not going public place in this COVID-19 era. Meanwhile, that thing is already happening in our society. That thing is already applied in our society. But here is what Mona told you. If we are, for example, if we are stop this public area going thing to decrease the disease of people that hampered by those smokers is only drop like 6% from beginning. This is not really significant because of the smoker, because of the disease by cigarette smoke only drop 6%, not until 60% or more. It's only 6% in the journal brought by my first speaker. So we clearly show you that this right of smoker to stay in to smoke in public place should be exist because of what? Because if like the first point of my argument, this is can hamper their own child, their own home because of the intensive and 24-hour smoking in home. This is why we believe that going public place to smoke is okay for those smokers because of also in the COVID-19 era, not many people going outside, so it is really okay for you as smoker, for example, to go outside and smoke the cigarette outside and not make the other people to be second-hand smoker or intensive second-hand smoker in the end of the day. And we believe that we all talking about interaction with other people about this public place. We talk about how smoking in this public place can be good for a smoker in the end of the day.
The third speaker of the negative team spent 8 minutes and 3 seconds. And now to end up our debate today, here is the reply speech from the negative team. Ms. Alfie, the time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, before going to summarize this debate today, I will give several classes about this debate. The first classes is whether or not smoking in public places will affect with high probability of getting COVID-19, ladies and gentlemen. The negative team already explained like that it will not really affect getting the COVID-19 in public places, ladies and gentlemen, because in the end of the day, people are trying to stay at home 24 hours and so on and so forth. So the idea of the government is not relevant enough, ladies and gentlemen. The second question is whether or not this kind of thing ban public, whether or not it can be applied in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. Remembering that the government bring the example from the country which is quite different compared to the situation of Indonesian culture, ladies and gentlemen. So we do believe that this kind of thing, this kind of mechanism will cannot be applied in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. To illustrate this point, we have to look back our counter perspective, such as my first and the third speaker already told you, ladies and gentlemen. Indonesia smoking is habit and for smokers freedom. Smoking ban does break rules, or they can still smoke somewhere else, ladies and gentlemen. And it is not allow freedom of choice to smoke, ladies and gentlemen. So we do believe that their argument already tackled up, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to the summary of the debate, ladies and gentlemen. The negative team already proved you that smoking bans don't make people healthier, ladies and gentlemen. The negative team already brought the data from the 2006 that there is no significance of the second hand and so on and so forth. And then we do believe that smoking ban doesn't allow the freedom of choice, and smoking ban cannot be implemented in Indonesia, remembering our situation and cultural thing about smoking itself, ladies and gentlemen. And we do believe that our status quo is already enough to solve the problem that government exaggerating about this case. So we brought to oppose.
The reply speaker from the negative team spent 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And now the last, here is the reply speech from the affirmative team. Mr. Azam, the time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the final speaker of the government side of the House, working on the opposition's case as to why smoking should be illegal in public places. There were a few points of contention brought up today, and one major issue has centered on the question that banning smoking would not reduce the smoker. And the opposition said government that got a lot of tax from the smoke, and when smoking ban leads to a fever sale, that could mean government has reduced revenues from tobacco taxes. They claim that cigarettes taxes is very helpful and for sustainable financing at national levels and healthcare as well as economic benefits. And well, ladies and gentlemen, it is known that fact that both passive and active smoking are damaging to human health and economic cost of disease and death attributable to cigarette use is extremely expensive. Smoking also imposes considerably high economic costs both on the healthcare system as well as on a country as a whole. It reduces huge tax revenue for government as well as employment in the tobacco industry. That's why smoking should be banned in public places to reduce the number of smokers and people dying a senseless death. We propose alternative ways to deal with that, raising or higher taxes in cigarettes products would reduce tobacco consumption and lessen the number of active and passive smokers. Also maximizing other domestic revenue resources to increase national incomes, which can be used to fund priority investment and programs that benefit the entire population. Thus, smoking bans could save healthcare system a lot of money. That's why we propose this motion.
The reply speaker of the affirmative team spent 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And that's the end of our debate today, and we will allow the adjudicators to decide the winner of this debate. And to all of the audience and the debaters, you may leave the room, please.
Oke, nah ini tepuk tangan.